Hello again, everybody, and Roll Tide. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Make sure you check them out online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. We're glad to be with you on this Thursday as this very busy week of Alabama athletics continues. We'll go ahead and take a look at our headlines for today that are brought to you by RJ Young. They're the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They furnished us with this smart board to go through all the different headlines for today's show. First of all, coming up on the show today, we'll be hearing from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats, after Alabama on Tuesday night fell to Auburn 100-81, the final score from Auburn Arena. So we'll get some post-game thoughts from Coach Oats. We'll also be joined by Hannah Barber, the point guard for the Alabama women's basketball team, as this week we're celebrating National Girls and Women in Sports Day. On Wednesday, we have a great opportunity to catch up with Hannah Barber coming up. And then we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide football team, Nick Saban, as Wednesday was National Signing Day, so we'll get his thoughts on the signing day class for the Crimson Tide. A lot of the class was already in place with the early signing period back in December, but some other key additions for the Crimson Tide as well as to the coaching staff on Wednesday. And then we will finish up this show with a Hey Coach replay, hearing from the gymnastics coach, Dana Duckworth, getting all of her thoughts as Alabama had its last meet, of course, at Auburn last Friday, and now the Crimson Tide will be at home for a tri-meet coming up on Friday night. Continue going through the different headlines for today, starting with men's basketball. Again, on Tuesday night, fell at number one Auburn. 100-81 was the final score. It is worth noting 81 points, most that Auburn has allowed all season long. So the Crimson Tide still searching for that consistency. Got a lot of it from Jaden Shackelford with 26 points. Also, Javon Quinterly was very strong in the second half as well for the Tide. Doesn't get any easier for Alabama. Coming up, Alabama will be at home against number 5 Kentucky, 7 p.m. on Saturday. Crimson Tide last year played extremely well, winning twice against Kentucky, including at Rupp Arena. Now the Crimson Tide get to host the Wildcats coming up on Saturday, so great challenge ahead of Alabama men's basketball as this 3-game stretch saw a win against number 4 Baylor last Saturday. Tight loss against Auburn on Tuesday night, now hosting Kentucky coming up on Saturday. Women's basketball team, after seeing the men's team play Auburn, the number 1 ranked team in the country earlier in the week, now Alabama women's basketball tonight at number 1 South Carolina. 6 p.m. tip-off. Our coverage on the radio will start at 5:55 for that ball game. As you see, Alabama 11-9 on the season, 2-7 in the SEC. The 2 wins have been against the Auburn Tigers. South Carolina, meanwhile, 20-1. Their only loss came in conference play to the Missouri Tigers, the team that Alabama just played this past Sunday. So big challenge coming up for the Tide. We'll talk about that, plus everything else that's going on with Alabama women's basketball this season with the point guard of the team, Hannah Barber, the native of Homewood, coming up in just a few moments. Then some notes around Crimson Tide athletics. Of course, Wednesday, Alabama finalizing its signing class for this year, and who knows, the transfer portal, there may still be a few additions coming up for the Alabama football team with National Signing Day, but we'll hear in just a few minutes from Coach Saban with Coach's Checklist looking at National Signing Day. Gymnastics, as we mentioned, Dana Duckworth and her group have a big opportunity against Western Michigan and North Carolina in the Capes and Crowns meet. That's coming up on Friday night. And then also Alabama celebrating Black History Month with Tide Trailblazers. Make sure you log on to rolltide.com for more information on Tide Trailblazers. We'll be highlighting some of that great work as well coming up on Crimson Drive in the next few weeks. And then baseball, if you want to watch some baseball, of course, opening day is on February 18th at Sewell Thomas Stadium against the Xavier Musketeers. But if you want to watch some scrimmages, and especially if the weather is going to be good this weekend, make sure you head on out to Sewell Thomas Stadium. Some practices and some scrimmages coming up at the Joes. So there's a lot of great opportunities to watch some Tide baseball as we're getting closer to baseball opening day, February 18th. Don't forget, softball opening day is just over a week away. Next week, we'll be talking a lot about Alabama softball with Patrick Murphy, as well as our softball broadcasters, Tom Canterbury and Gray Robertson. So that's some other headlines going on around Alabama athletics, but most notably for the Crimson Tide on Tuesday night, it was a loss to the number 1 ranked team in the country, the Auburn Tigers. Let's check out Coach's Checklist from Tuesday night as Nate Oats met with the media following the Auburn game.
They're a good team. We got to be better than we were tonight in order to compete with them. They're good everywhere. They don't have many weak links. Front court can overwhelm us a little bit. I thought some of our guards played well. Shaq, when we got to go in there in the second half, those guys competed hard, but we got to do a better job. We gave away too many points in transition. Okay, asked for 27 points we gave up in transition. We gave them 31 at the line. Give up almost 60 points in transition at the free throw line. You're gonna have a hard time winning games. So transition D's got to get better. Did run out of guard without fouling, and we gotta get a little bit better. So they're better than we are right now. We're gonna keep working and see if we can make some improvements before March. It was as good as it was against Baylor, to be honest with you. I thought some of the guys competed and played hard, but wasn't quite where it was against Baylor. I thought we saw it at times, but not for the full 40. And we came out, we got up, I think 4, maybe it was 12-8. I thought we were doing a good job. I thought we forced them into some tough shots, and we had too many possessions where we didn't sprint back on defense. It gave them easy buckets in transition. I think at the half they had 18 transition points. They finished the game with 27. Like, if you're playing as hard as you can play, you're not getting that many points up in transition. So it wasn't as bad as it's been at Georgia, Missouri, some of those games where it wasn't good enough to beat the number 1 team in the country, that's for sure. When it really got downhill to the rim, he was obviously came out of the second half playing great. Thought our defensive energy was good. We got some stops, and we, kind of had to go to the bench a little bit. Some guys got tired. And I think, I maybe left some guys in open to stay on the run, and went to the bench. It wasn't quite the same energy as we had in there, and we couldn't get stops. And we had some turnovers and took a couple bad shots in there too. And they kind of went on their run to open it back up, but. I thought our guys showed some fight there to be in the second half. I was proud of that starting group. I thought, JQ and Shaq, Keon, Jawan, and Charles played well for large parts of the game, and then couldn't sustain it. You can't keep those 5 guys on the floor all the time. And, I thought there were some guys that came off the bench and gave us good energy too. I thought Darius, played pretty good on defense. We needed a little bit better offense maybe out of him, but he just ran out of some gas with some of those starting. They're deep. Shoot, when Wendell Green comes off the bench, he's not in the starting group, so he's doesn't start the game. And you see, he played 27 minutes, so he doesn't really come in for the first 4 minutes of the game, the first 4 minutes of the second half. After that, he's in the game most of the time. They bring him off, and we're a little more tired, and he kind of gives them a little spark, and we didn't really have that pop maybe we needed off the bench tonight.
So that was Nate Oats with Coach's Checklist following Alabama's game against number 1 Auburn. Now the Crimson Tide will look ahead to Saturday's matchup with the 5th-ranked Kentucky Wildcats. Speaking of facing a number 1 team, Alabama women's basketball will have that challenge tonight on the road in Columbia, South Carolina against the Gamecocks. Point guard of the team is Hannah Barber, and it was a great time to catch up with the Homewood, Alabama native Hannah Barber. Not just about what's coming up tonight for the Crimson Tide, what we've seen this season, but also National Girls and Women in Sports Day. We celebrated that on Wednesday. We've really been celebrating it all week long here on Crimson Drive. Wanted to hear Hannah Barber's perspective on that, as she has a career in coaching coming up after her playing days are done at the capstone. I think you'll enjoy this conversation with Crimson Tide senior point guard Hannah Barber. Hannah, roll Tide. How's everything going as we're starting the month of February in women's basketball?
For sure. Roll Tide, Roger. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. February is going to be a big month for us in conference play, so we're looking forward to it.
Through the ups and downs so far that we've seen this season, what have you really learned about your game and the game of your teammates? So what are you guys trying to do on the floor right now?
Yeah, obviously with a bunch of new people, coming into conference play, we knew we were going to have some challenges, but I think we've really tried to just stick together and work through them together, not allow anything that's happened to, get in the way of the connection that we have as a group. I think that's been really helpful for us, just to really focus in on staying together and fighting through this together.
And we've seen you throughout your Alabama career develop more as a leader. Has that taken on an added importance this season since you did bring back so much playing time for the last 3 years?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, Meg and I both had the understanding going in that we were going to have to, bring a little bit more leadership to this group. But the good thing about our team is that we know that nobody's out there by themselves. Nobody has to do it alone. So we really tried to do it by committee this year. Whether that's leading vocally or by action on or off the floor, we have different people who can step up in different roles so that we're doing it by committee and it's not just falling on one person.
And that was really tested during the month of January due to all the COVID issues that were on this roster. Just how did you guys manage through such a difficult period when some players weren't allowed to practice, some weren't allowed to play in games? Even you went through a stretch like that as well.
Yeah, one thing that Coach Curry always emphasized to us is just control the controllables, right? There's things out there that we can't control. So our only focus is to bring effort and energy each day and with whoever we have out there on the floor. Obviously, with all the unprecedented things that go on in the world right now, there's just no way to know. So all we try to do is just bring the effort and bring the energy and let it take care of itself.
And we saw that in a big way against Auburn as Alabama was able to claim a win just over a week ago down at Auburn Arena. You had some big 3-pointers in that game, but I'm sure you were proud as well of Megan Abrams, who had just returned literally that day to the roster, had 10 points, had a great performance. That had to be one of the best wins you've had at Alabama.
Yeah, for sure. Just the toughness and grit that Meg brings every single day. It honestly wasn't surprising that she was able to do that just because that's the type of person, that's the type of player that she is. But yeah, we all just kind of rallied together. We knew we were on the road. Obviously, it was a big day, the way that they honored Coach Champy. So we knew we had to bring a little bit extra energy to that game, and it worked out in our favor. When we play hard for 40 minutes and we bring that effort and that energy, we'll have games like we did when we were at Auburn.
That was a fun win for the Crimson Tide, and you've been able to be a part of a lot of big wins in your Alabama career. Just as you start to take a look back, and we know you're coming back next year as well, but what are you most proud of that you've been able to accomplish so far in an Alabama uniform?
The most obvious would be getting back to the NCAA tournament. Obviously, that was huge, not only for us as a team, but just for the program in general. But other than that, I would just say the relationships that I've built with my teammates have been super important to me. The connection that I have with our coaching staff, those are things that I'll carry with me far beyond anything on the basketball floor. So I'm just really grateful for those.
Well, this week, a lot of attention on women's athletics due to the fact that Wednesday is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Just when you see all the recognition going towards women's athletics, and also it's the 50th anniversary of Title IX, what does that mean to you?
It means a lot to me. I remember being a little girl and, wanting to play basketball at a really high level, wanting to play in college. And I remember looking up to people who did that. So I think it's really important for us to continue to shine light on women's athletics and women's sports, because when we do, little girls and young people that are playing sport are allowed to see it. And when they can see it, then they know it's possible for them. So it's really important to us, not just Wednesday, but every day, to just continue to represent and continue to honor women in sport.
At so many Alabama home games, we see all these youth teams that are there. Sometimes they play games while you guys are in the locker room at halftime. Was that you once upon a time coming over from Homewood to some games in Tuscaloosa watching the Tide play?
Yeah, for sure. I remember going to a lot of games actually in Foster Auditorium. And it was really cool to see. I remember I came to the game when they beat Tennessee for the first time in Foster, and it was just really exciting. There was just an energy and a passion for women's basketball at Alabama that was just really appealing to me, and I wanted to be a part of it.
And you certainly have been for 4 years. And of course, so we hope that will continue going into next season as well. But for you, as you start to think about a life after basketball, what do you think's next for you in your career?
I wanted to get into coaching when my playing career is over.
That's outstanding, and definitely some great coaches to be around. I'm sure you enjoy, even though you're still getting to play, trying to pick the brain as much as possible of head coach Christy Curry and also all the great assistants you have.
Yeah, for sure. Coach Curry just has so much experience in different conferences and with different types of teams. So it's been really fun to just be able to be around her every single day and pick up on things that she does that makes her such a successful coach. She's always super willing, if I have questions about this or any advice that she might have, she's always super willing to voice that to me. And I just really appreciate her for that.
Well, for the Crimson Tide, again, the month of February is coming up, and it starts with a really big challenge. #1 South Carolina on Thursday night. Just what's going to be most important for your group heading into that game? We've seen Alabama play well against the Gamecocks in the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, they're the #1 team in the country for a reason, and we're on the road. But all it comes down to for us, if we can compete for 40 minutes, if we can play hard every single possession and not have lapses, I think we'll put ourselves in a good position. Obviously, on both ends of the floor, on the offensive end and the defensive end, we just have to be locked into our game plan, to our scout for 40 minutes.
Look forward to watching an Alabama against South Carolina on Thursday night from Columbia. Just Hannah Barber, thank you so much for joining us this week on Crimson Drive. All the best to you and your teammates moving forward. Roll Tide.
Of course, Roger. Thank you. Roll Tide.
All the best to Hannah Barber and the Crimson Tide coming up tonight against number 1 South Carolina. Speaking of number 1, maybe the Crimson Tide, before everything's said and done with the football signing class, will be number 1 in the nation. Certainly it's one of the top 2 or 3 by most recruiting outlets, and head coach Nick Saban really pleased with this class as he met with the media on Wednesday. Here's a look at Coach's Checklist with Coach Saban.
Wow, well, it's a long time since early signing date. I think, we probably all need to adapt a little bit to, the changes and the landscape of college football and how it's changed now that the early signing date has kind of become the signing date. But we were really pleased and happy to, add, one player today, which was really kind of our goal. Danny Lewis, tight end, and then all the other guys that we, signed in December. I think the 23 guys that we signed in December that we're really, pleased and happy with. This is a culmination of a lot of hard work by a lot of people. First of all, our coaches did a great job of identifying some really character quality prospects who are good players, who have great upside, and who, fit, what we're looking for at the University of Alabama to develop personally, academically, and athletically into being as successful as possible, in all those areas. And, we recruit around here, with a sort of a team effort, and the university community, our administration, Dr. Bell, Greg Byrne, a lot of people in the university community, support and contribute academically, to helping us do a good job of representing the university in a first-class way, and the opportunities that these people, that our players have, academically. And we got a lot of people in our organization here internally that do a really, really good job of spending time and developing relationships, with recruits so that they feel at home and comfortable with, being a part of the University of Alabama program. So I think we satisfied some needs in this class. As you well know, there's a lot of rankings, there's a lot of ratings out there, but basically what we want our players that we recruit to focus on is their development. They certainly have the qualities that we look for to be outstanding football players, but we also want them to focus on, the right things. And, everybody wants to play. Everybody wants an opportunity to play. We give everybody an opportunity to play. But I think the key thing for players is, to stay focused on what they have to do to develop, so when they get an opportunity to play, they can take advantage of it. And so that's always, our goal. No matter how a player's ranked, whether it's the NFL draft where you get drafted, no matter where he's ranked, nobody has to live up to anything. What they have to do is say, I got an opportunity because of what I was able to accomplish and what I was able to do. Now the focus needs to be on, how am I going to take advantage of it, and the opportunity that I have here. So we also added 3 transfer players, wide receiver Jermaine Burton, running back Jamar Gibbs, and cornerback Eli Ricks, who are all guys that I think are outstanding players and certainly can make a contribution, to our team in areas where we have needs. We've also added 3 new coaches. Coleman Hutzler will be the special teams coach. He's a defensive coach, so he'll actually do the special teams from the defensive side of the ball. Travaris Robinson will be secondary coach here, coach of cornerbacks, and Eric Wolford will be the offensive line coach. And all these guys have really good pedigree, really good background, really good experience. All these guys have been in the SEC at some point in time and know this league, and I think will make a really positive relationship, a positive effect by the relationships that they can build and develop, with our players on our team. So we're excited about having this new energy, this new enthusiasm to go along with the quality coaches that we have here in the program who did an outstanding job a year ago. So I want to thank everyone out there for all their hard work. I think it starts with the fans and the atmosphere and environment that they create in Bryant-Denny Stadium, which, you know, is a part of the spirit that makes people want to be a part of the program here at the University of Alabama, and all the people, you know, at our institution and the university community, as well as in the athletic department and the football program, who work so hard to make this happen.
From one head coach to another here on Crimson Drive, we appreciate Alabama Athletics furnishing us with that video with Coach Saban. And earlier this week on Monday night, we had Hey Coach, a very busy edition of Hey Coach, as we were joined first by the new volleyball coach, Rashinda Reed. We also had Nate Oats on the phone from Auburn. And then in the middle, we had a great conversation, as we always do, with Dana Duckworth talking Alabama gymnastics as she looked back to the Auburn meet from last Friday, but really looks ahead to what's going to be a really fun atmosphere coming up on Friday night at Coleman Coliseum as Alabama host a tri-meet against North Carolina and Western Michigan. Here's our conversation with Dana Duckworth.
Roll Tide, Dana. Great to see you.
Roll Tide, and welcome Rashinda and her staff. So excited to have y'all here. Yeah.
It's a special family, the coaching family. I know you guys text each other words of support all the time, and now Rashinda gets to be a part of that here.
No, it's an exciting time, first of all, for coaches at Alabama. We do have a collaboration, and we really are here to lift each other up because it doesn't always go our way sometimes. And I think the fact that we support each other when we win or when we don't is really important because we all understand the impact we're making on these student athletes' lives, but we also need the support too.
Absolutely. And speaking of support, a lot of Alabama fans right now are stepping up in their support of Crimson Tide women's athletics specifically because coming up on Wednesday is National Girls and Women in Sports Day.
Well, I love it. It's such growth. You know, when we talk about opportunity for women, we've come so far. I know we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and that means a lot. I mean, I'm an athlete that benefited from the progress of women in sports, and I probably never would have been able to leave the state of Michigan and gone somewhere on a full scholarship like a University of Alabama if those opportunities weren't there. And so I just love the fact that it's progress. We got to continue. We got a lot of work to do. We still have opportunities for growth in those areas, and it's fun to be a part of that and to celebrate it on 2/2/2022.
That's
Is
right.
that not so cool?
I love it.
2/2/2022.
Well, we're certainly glad you're in Tuscaloosa tonight. We're glad the gymnastics team will be competing here coming up on Friday. I do want to ask quickly, though, about the last meet against the Auburn Tigers, the balance meet. You had to love the results, 49-6-5-0, just up and down the lineup, great results.
Results were positive. I was really more excited about this. It was a very boisterous environment, to say the nice way. And our ladies went over into an event where it could have gone one way or the other, and they stayed calm, cool, and collective. I love that they really used the energy and actually just kept their composure, which then allowed them to have one of the best beam scores we've had in history of our program. And I'm not surprised because that's the way we train. These young women are so disciplined and so hungry for success. So it's nice that we had that kind of accolades, you know, in that last event. We would have liked to have started off stronger on the two events so we weren't in a hole going in. At the same time, we are constantly learning and we're trying to continue to build the resilience of this team, and these are the environments when resilience is built. So it's all going to be like we talk about it. You win and you learn. That's it. So we learned a lot and we're going to continue to learn. And we're really excited to be home in Coleman Coliseum. You know there's nothing like Coleman Coliseum. The energy, the fans, the students, the support, it is absolutely vibrant. It makes a difference. I will tell you, last week, they had a competitive advantage with their crowd and their students. And we want that in Coleman Coliseum. And this is a really great team that we have right now. And I think that they're going to put on a great show, a great performance. And our fans can get on their feet and be louder than the other side of the state.
What's going to be most important coming up in the next few days in preparing for Western Michigan and North Carolina?
This meets a tri-meet, and what that means is in a normal dual setting, it's one person at a time, and so you have vault and bars, and then the teams switch. This time, it's basically Olympic order. So we'll start on vault, and Western Michigan will be on bars, UNC will be on beam, and all three activities will be going at the same time. So then the next event, we rotate in Olympic order. So no one will follow Alabama, which means when we go to floor, the final rotation, someone will be on vault and bars and no one will be on balance beam. So it's going to just be different. It's great setting us up for our typical postseason where we go in Olympic order and there's a lot going on at the same time. And the fact that the meet was originally at 7 o'clock and it was not on television, and now SEC Network wants to put us on television, I just love that opportunity for our women, for the other sports that don't, teams that don't get that kind of recognition. So we'll be on, but there's nothing like being in Coleman, and there's too many tickets available, so let's get people, to buy tickets on RollTide.com.
And as we continue visiting with Coach Duckworth, why don't we go to the phones? And the first question from the phones, always brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or visit al811.com. We go to the phones now where Pee-wee from Grand Bay, Alabama joins us now on the phone. Roll Tide, Pee-wee.
Roll Tide, Roger. Hey, Coach Dana, how are you?
Doing fine, Pee-wee. How are you?
I'm doing well. Coach, I've been watching gymnastics almost pretty much my entire life, whether it's been on, ABC, Wide World of Sports from back in the early 70s and on up and all the way up now into watching Alabama and getting in behind this. But when you have girls that have had Olympic experience and then they come to college and compete collegiately, what is some of the biggest differences in the things that they have to do and the way that they train?
That's a great question, Pee-wee. First of all, they train a lot more than 20 hours a week. And the NCAA, of course, doesn't allow us to train more than the 20 hours. I see a lot of really, really high-level gymnastics going on in the Olympic world where they actually do probably, we do a routine with 8 to 10 skills in it. They're doing a routine with 15 to 20 skills in it. So there's more skills involved. So the big piece when you come to college is about simplifying what you're doing, but execution, which means how clean you do your gymnastics, becomes even more imperative because of the way our judging works. So judging works very different and it gets real technical, but at the end of the day in college, we have a 10.0 and it's your 10.0 to lose, versus in the Olympic world, you have to take an execution and a deduction score and add it up so you can go up to 16.1 kind of averages, and then it's your score to lose. And so I love how sacred the 10-0 is. And so the biggest change for an Olympian is you're doing less skills, but you now need to do them as perfect as possible. And that's where your score comes from. And then, of course, the reduction in hours is a big change for them because their bodies change, their mindset changes, and some of them don't come to college because they don't want to water down. They don't want to change those things. But we have found a way with, for example, our Olympian, Shallon Olsen, who still does some of the toughest gymnastics in college than anyone in the entire, really, right now, I guess, history,
Right.
for the most part. So that's a great question, and I hope that answers kind of what you were looking for.
Thank you for the call, Pee-wee, as we continue to visit with Coach Duckworth and get ready for Friday night. We talked a little bit about the tri-meet, how that's going to look, of course, on the floor, but around Coleman Coliseum, there's going to be a lot of fun for everyone that's in attendance. And again, it's another reason why you should come in attendance here in Tuscaloosa.
I feel like the Fun Family Friday that's so affordable and such a nice experience. It's more than the gymnastics meet. It truly is an opportunity to bring your friends and your families together and do something bigger. Is like the capes and crowns idea. Oh, it's just so fun. The concourse will be filled and the first 250 capes and 250 crowns will be given away. There'll be princesses like Elsa and Anna and Moana around, and then you'll have Spider-Man around the concourse for some meet and greets. You can get tattoos and balloon, twisters, and we're even going to have something different. We've never done this before, but it's called Touch a Truck, where we'll have local police and fire trucks outside of Coleman Coliseum. So when you think about the family environment, you can get there an hour and a half before the doors open and before the meet starts. So it starts at 7:30. Which means you can start at 6 o'clock, bring your family out, and have an adventure. Make it an experience for them.
And for the fans that are coming to Coleman for the first time to watch a meet, what are the appropriate times to really cheer and get loud throughout the course of the meet?
You know what? When you see the feet hit the ground and you see something spectacular, that's the moment you erupt and use your shakers and get loud. It's kind of similar to when you see a dunk or a three-pointer in basketball. That energy, the second it happens, is what you want to do. Now, The score normally takes 20 to 30 seconds to come up. So if you see a great performance, do it when their feet hit the floor. If the score comes up and it's a 9-9 or better, go crazy because that means excellence.
That's certainly good to hear. So as we start to wrap things up with you, Coach Duckworth, again, as we get ready for Friday night, what do you want the fans to see the most from your gymnasts when they compete against North Carolina and Western Michigan, two really good teams?
A big focus this week is our vault performance and trying to do a better job with our landings, amplitude, height, and distance from the horse. As far as bars, we want to continue to stick those landings, hit our handstands. We want to nail 6-beam routines, and we want to go over to floor exercise and put on a show. If we do that on each event, then we're going to have a tremendous success. And I also want them just to be passionate, be in the stands, love what you see, and applaud.
Sounds like a good plan. Well, Coach Duckworth, thank you for joining us tonight. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Fun conversation with Coach Duckworth. We look forward to that tri-meet coming up for Alabama on Friday night. You can watch on the SEC Network starting at 7:30, but as she mentioned, really a lot of reasons to be there inside Coleman Coliseum for all the fun for capes and crowns as Alabama takes on Western Michigan and North Carolina. We don't have a Crimson Tide Sports Network broadcast of that gymnastics meet, but we do have plenty of broadcasts coming up as we start to take a look at our schedule, and it all begins coming up with Alabama women's basketball against South Carolina coming up tonight at 6 p.m. across the network. Our coverage will start at 5:55. Then we'll be very busy as well throughout the weekend. Saturday, the men's basketball team at home against Kentucky, 6 o'clock airtime, and then a 7 o'clock tip-off against the 5th-ranked Wildcats. Don't forget, we have a couple of video cameras working for you on our Facebook page coming up on Saturday at 6 o'clock when we hit the air from Stipe Lounge, presented by Royal Furniture for the pregame show. We will have that streaming live on UA Athletics Facebook as well as our own, and then the courtside cam that we know has become extremely popular, especially for men's games. We'll have that going coming up at 7 o'clock right back here on our CTSN Facebook page, so you can experience the broadcast along with Chris Stewart, Brian Passink, and Tom Stipe. Sunday, once again, the women's team will be on the road heading to Nashville, Tennessee to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Good opportunity for a win for Alabama coming up on Sunday at 2 p.m. radio coverage at 1:55. And then Monday night, Hey Coach, presented by Alpha Insurance at 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. Really looking forward to that as we once again visit with the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Nate Oats. Once again, that'll be streaming live on our Facebook page as well. So many different options on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, and of course on YouTube to catch all of our content that's ahead here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And that's going to wrap up this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Make sure you check them out online at TuscaloosaToyota.com. We certainly appreciate the time of Hannah Barber joining us here on Crimson Drive, as well as all the different coaches we heard from, whether it was Nick Saban, Nate Oats, or from Hey Coach Dana Duckworth. A really great show on this Thursday. Thanks to Ethan Carabin, our producer, for putting all of this together on this Thursday, and thanks to all of you for watching. This has been Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by Tuscaloosa Toyota. Now enjoy the weekend of Alabama sports. Roll Tide, everybody.